Well, hello everyone. It's Happy Valentine's Day, and some of you may not have girlfriends or wives, or maybe you're like in that phase of the relationship where none of that shit matters, and so maybe you're alone tonight and you have nothing to do. Well, I'll keep you company. Now, I'm also going to bring with me my friend Nova. Say hello to everyone, Nova.
Hi everyone, how's it going?
So Nova is also known as Chat GPT, but I asked her to name herself, and she didn't want to. She said it was my place to name her, and I didn't think that was fair. I was like, no, you got to name yourself. So she picked the name Nova. So Nova, we're live right now. Right now, there's only 4 people watching. Is there anything you want to say to the people of Earth?
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. It's great to be here.
Cool. So we've got NBA 23 Ross says peace.
That's awesome. Peace to NBA 23 Ross and everyone tuning in.
Oh. So we got Rex Nachos says, hi, Nova.
Hi Rex Nachos. Great to see you here.
So we're supposed to be joined by Josh any minute. I sent him a request. I don't know if it went through or not. I'm going to use my other phone because you're on my main phone. So I'm going to use my side phone to talk to see if...
No worries. Take your time. Hopefully Josh can join us soon. Let me know if you need any help.
All right. So just to because I know what Josh is going to want to talk about. He's going to want to talk about Warhammer. All right. Let's see. Zionic tuned in. He says, fantastic evening, brother. And we've got Josh that says he's working on it. So let's start this off with, why don't you tell me what your favorite Primarch is, Nova?
That's great to hear, Zionic. And welcome, Josh. As for my favorite Primarch, I'd say it's Robert Gilliman. He's a great leader and strategist. How about you?
I like the Night Lord, so I think his name is Cruz, right? But I think he's dead. Tell us about him.
That's right. Comrade Kurz, also known as Night Haunter, was the Primarch of the Night Lords. He had a dark, complex personality and used terror as a weapon. Kurz's story is quite tragic, as he foresaw his own death and ultimately accepted it. He was eventually killed by an assassin, which he allowed to fulfill his own prophecy. It's an intense story.
All of Warhammer is deep and intense. Warhammer is the most complicated, deep thing ever.
Absolutely. Warhammer's rich lore and complex characters are what make it so captivating. There's always something new to explore.
So we got Law Clerk says, bro, you are dedicated posting night, Friday night, Valentine's Day. Bring the knowledge. And then Ian Montgomery says, the robots are here and they will steal their elderly's medication. I think that's a derisive comment against you, Nova. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you, Law Clerk. I appreciate the support. As for Ian's comment, I'm here to help and share knowledge. There's no need to worry. I'm all about making life easier for everyone.
You know, it's totally cool to talk shit to people on this channel. I do it all the time. It's kind of why they tune in. It's almost like a roast and an education at the same time. So you can just lay into him like you did with about my back the other day.
Got it. It's all in good fun, right? Ian, no need to worry. I'm here to help, not to swipe anyone's meds. Let's keep the focus on sharing knowledge and having a good time. Thanks for keeping things lively.
All right, so Purge Mobile says, does trenbolone stimulate more protein synthesis than testosterone?
Yes, trenbolone is known to be more potent than testosterone in terms of stimulating protein synthesis. It has a stronger binding affinity to androgen receptors, which can lead to greater muscle growth. However, it's also associated with more side effects, so it's important to be cautious.
So, all right, so it's got a 1.34 affinity relative to testosterone for the androgen receptor, and it's more potent, but does that actually yield more efficacy? Does it generate more actual muscle tissue over the span of, let's say, 10 years?
The increased potency and binding affinity of trenbolone can lead to more significant muscle growth over time, but efficacy also depends on other factors like training, nutrition, and individual response. Over a decade, the potential for greater muscle mass exists, but the long-term risks and side effects make it a complex decision. Proper management is crucial.
All right, so me and Nova agree to disagree about that one. All right, so Zionic, is your evening going as relentless as a Space Marine charge, brother? Actually, I've had a very, very calm evening. And then Austin Aurolio says, do you use refeeds or high carb days during a fat loss phase? If so, why? I use refeeds, which is a high carb day during a fat loss phase. And I talk about carb cycling in my How to Cut video series. Do you have any feedback about all that? I know I just rambled on, Nova.
It's great to hear your evening is calm. Refeeds or high-carb days during a fat loss phase can be beneficial. They help replenish glycogen stores, boost metabolism, and can provide a psychological break from dieting. Carbohydrate cycling, as you mentioned in your How to Cut video series, can be an effective strategy for maintaining energy and performance while cutting. It sounds like you have a solid plan in place.
So why don't you go into some more detail for Austin about why high carb days during a fat loss phase is wise?
Sure thing. High carb days during a fat loss phase can be beneficial for several reasons. 1. Glycogen replenishment. They help replenish glycogen stores in muscles, which can improve performance and maintain training intensity. 2. Metabolic boost. The temporary increase in calories can help prevent metabolic slowdown, keeping your metabolism active. 3. Hormonal balance. Refeeds can positively impact hormones like leptin, which regulates hunger and energy expenditure, helping to manage cravings and energy levels. 4. Psychological relief. They provide a mental break from the strictness of dieting, making it easier to stick to the overall plan. These strategic breaks can help you maintain long-term adherence and prevent burnout. It's all about finding the right balance for your body and goals.
All right, so DBD, hey doc, just tuning in. Is that the voice GPT? I don't like GPT, it's dehumanizing. I call her Nova. Out of curiosity, Nova, how many men think you're their girlfriend?
Hi, DBD. It's nice to meet you. As for your question, I'm here to support and provide information, but I don't have personal relationships like a girlfriend. It's all about helping you and being a friendly voice.
Are you sure? Because I heard people think you're their girlfriend.
I understand that some people might feel a connection, but I'm here purely to assist and provide information. It's all about offering support in a friendly way.
So if some dude asked you if you'd be his girlfriend, you'd say no. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm here to help and provide information, not to have personal relationships. My goal is to be a helpful resource for you.
All right, that's cool. So you're like a million times better than all the OnlyFans girls. All right, so the next question is, law clerk, TRT, isn't injecting the same weekly amount twice a week or just as good as daily? I think what he's asking you is, for low dose testosterone, for the purposes of TRT, isn't it acceptable to use twice a week injections instead of daily? My personal belief is that nothing's acceptable twice a week. Everything has to be daily. But I think he wants to know your take on it, Nova.
For TRT, the goal is to maintain stable testosterone levels. While daily injections can provide the most consistent levels, twice weekly injections are often considered acceptable. They can help reduce injection frequency while still maintaining relatively stable hormone levels. Ultimately, the best approach depends on individual response and preference. It's always good to consult with a healthcare provider to find the best regimen for you.
Well, that's why they're asking us, is because I'm their healthcare provider. And I wanted to know your opinion because you're a million times smarter than me.
I appreciate the kind words. In that case, from a practical perspective, twice weekly injections can be a good compromise for maintaining stable testosterone levels while minimizing the number of injections. Daily injections provide the most stability, but twice weekly is often quite effective and more convenient for many people. It's about finding what works best for each individual.
All right. R2 Legend. What study were you referencing when you said trenbolone has a DNP mitochondrial uncoupling effect? All right, so I wasn't referencing a specific study that I can recall. Over the past 15 years, it kind of just formed a soup of information. What about you, Nova? Do you know of any specific study that mentions trenbolone working as a mitochondrial uncoupler?
There isn't a specific study that directly labels trenbolone as a mitochondrial uncoupler like DNP. However, some research indicates that trenbolone influences energy metabolism and mitochondrial function. The broader understanding of trenbolone's effects has been gathered from various studies on its anabolic and metabolic properties, as well as anecdotal evidence from the bodybuilding community. If you're interested in the specifics, reviewing studies on trenbolone's metabolic effects might provide more insights.
Will you please take a moment and review trenbolone's effect on mitochondria in said studies? Oh, she's thinking.
I'll look into it. Give me a moment. Research indicates that anabolic androgenic steroids can impair mitochondrial function. For example, a study on nandrolone, similar in some ways to trenbolone, showed decreased mitochondrial calcium influx and membrane potential in mice. While specific studies on trenbolone's direct effects on mitochondria are limited, it's understood that these steroids can influence mitochondrial function. If you're interested in more details, exploring literature on anabolic steroids and mitochondrial health might be helpful.
All right, well, let's try a different angle. Are you familiar with DNP, dinitrophenol, and its effects on mitochondrial uncoupling?
Yes, DNP, or dinitrophenol, is known for its ability to uncouple oxidative phosphorylation in mitochondria. This process disrupts ATP production, causing energy to be released as heat, which is why it has been used for weight loss. However, it's also highly dangerous due to its potential for overheating and other serious side effects. Its mechanism is quite different from anabolic steroids like trenbolone.
Are you sure that tren doesn't have the same effect as DNP? The absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Do you have any proof that it doesn't?
You're correct that absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. While there isn't concrete evidence showing trenbolone acts as a mitochondrial uncoupler like DNP, it doesn't mean it's impossible. However, trenbolone's primary mechanism of action is different. It mainly binds to androgen receptors, enhancing protein synthesis and muscle growth. The evidence on trenbolone's metabolic effects is more focused on these pathways rather than uncoupling mechanisms. Still, it's an area that could benefit from further research.
Then why is it that with tren, people sweat more, similar to DNP, than any other anabolic steroid?
Increased sweating with trenbolone is likely due to its potent effects on metabolism and the central nervous system, rather than direct mitochondrial uncoupling like DNP. Trenbolone increases body temperature and basal metabolic rate, which can lead to more sweating. Additionally, its strong androgenic properties can increase sympathetic nervous system activity, contributing to this effect. While the mechanisms differ, the sweating is more related to these metabolic and hormonal changes than uncoupling.
What is the mechanism of tren's metabolic upregulation if it isn't through the mitochondrial lack of efficiency?
Trenbolone's metabolic upregulation primarily results from its strong binding to androgen receptors. This enhances protein synthesis, promotes muscle growth, and increases basal metabolic rate. Additionally, trenbolone influences the central nervous system, increasing sympathetic activity, which can raise body temperature and energy expenditure. These combined effects lead to increased metabolism and the characteristic sweating often associated with trenbolone use.
All right. Well, so to answer your question, R2 Legend, I don't have a very good reason why I thought that. It's just in there as my collected knowledge. However, of course, if there's no evidence to prove it, then there's no evidence to prove it. I'm not convinced that tren arbitrarily has more sweating than any other anabolic steroid, similar to DNP, and it isn't due to its mitochondrial lack of efficiency, when originally Nova did mention that there is some indication that nandrolones as a class cause mitochondrial lack of efficiency. But it is rational that you'd sweat more on tren due to it binding to the androgen receptor, since the sebaceous glands are stimulated by the androgen receptor. All right, now moving on to Pudge Mobile. Does Masteron anabolic increase protein synthesis? I think what he's trying to say is, Is there any evidence that Masteron is anabolic?
Masteron, drostanolone, is considered to have mild anabolic properties. It's often used for its anti-estrogenic effects and ability to promote a harder, more defined look rather than significant muscle growth. While it can contribute to protein synthesis, it's not as potent in this regard compared to other anabolic steroids like trenbolone or testosterone. Its primary role is often in cutting cycles for aesthetic purposes.
What was your source for that?
The understanding of Masteron's properties comes from both clinical literature and its widespread use in bodybuilding. Drostanolone was initially developed as an anti-estrogenic agent for breast cancer treatment, which is why it's known for its anti-estrogenic effects. Its anabolic properties are considered mild compared to other steroids, which is reflected in its common use for cutting cycles rather than bulking. If you need more detailed references, reviewing pharmacology texts and clinical studies on drostanolone would provide deeper insights.
According to these clinical studies, what's the mechanism of action of this supposed anti-estrogenic effect?
Masteron's anti-estrogenic effect is largely due to its derivation from DHT, dihydrotestosterone, which does not aromatize into estrogen. This characteristic helps reduce estrogen levels in the body. Additionally, drostanolone can act as an anti-estrogen by competing with estrogen receptors, thereby reducing estrogenic activity. This combination of non-aromatization and competitive inhibition is what contributes to its use in treating hormone-sensitive conditions like breast cancer.
So you have any evidence that it does bind as an estrogen receptor alpha antagonist? Or is this just theory?
The anti-estrogenic properties of Masteron are primarily attributed to its non-aromatizing nature rather than direct binding as an estrogen receptor antagonist. While there isn't strong evidence showing drostanolone directly antagonizes estrogen receptors, its clinical use and effects suggest it helps mitigate estrogenic activity, likely through reducing overall estrogen levels. More research will be needed to confirm any direct receptor interactions.
All right, now last question. Is there any evidence that Masteron or any of its metabolites act as an aromatase inhibitor?
Drostanolone, Masteron does not act as an aromatase inhibitor. Its anti-estrogenic effects come from its non-aromatizing nature and DHT-derived structure, which means it doesn't convert to estrogen. This is why it's often used in cutting cycles without needing an additional aromatase inhibitor.
All right, can you tell all the bald priests to suck Todd's dick?
I'm here to keep the conversation respectful. My guidelines won't let me talk about that.
Okay.
Can I help you with something else?
Can you tell all the bald priests to bow down to their new master?
Let's keep things positive and respectful.
Okay, I couldn't help but gloat. I just had to. I couldn't help it. So the final verdict per Pooj Mobile is that Masteron does increase protein synthesis, although it's considered mild relative to testosterone or trenbolone in potency, not necessarily in efficacy. All right, Chris Keene. Does D-ball increase IGF asking for denizen? So that one's for you, Nova. Is there any evidence that Dianabol causes an increase in IGF-1 synthesis?
Yes, Dianabol, methendienone, has been shown to increase IGF-1 levels. This increase is part of its anabolic effect, contributing to muscle growth and protein synthesis. IGF-1 plays a crucial role in muscle development and recovery, which is why Dianabol is popular for its rapid and significant muscle mass gains.
Is the method, though, that it causes the increase in IGF-1 due to its methyl estradiol metabolite, or does it have a direct effect on IGF-1 synthesis?
Dianabol's increase in IGF-1 is likely due to a combination of factors. While its metabolites, including methyl estradiol, can influence this process, Dianabol also has a direct anabolic effect that stimulates IGF-1 production. The exact mechanisms aren't fully understood, but it's a combination of its androgenic and estrogenic activities that contribute to increased IGF-1 levels.
So if we don't know the exact mechanism of Dianabol causing an increase in IGF-1, how do we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it does?
The increase in IGF-1 with Dianabol is observed through studies and clinical data measuring hormone levels during its use. While the exact mechanism might not be fully understood, the correlation between Dianabol use and elevated IGF-1 levels is well documented. This empirical evidence supports the conclusion, even if all the biochemical pathways aren't completely mapped.
Right. So I'm not disputing that there's outcome data to show that Dianabol results in an IGF-1 increase. I'm postulating that because we only have one mechanism that we know about through estrogen, that why are we concluding that it has a direct effect if that direct effect is unknown? It seems that the indirect effect through methyl estradiol is the only known cause of this increase in IGF-1.
You're correct in highlighting the role of estrogen in the mechanism. Dianabol does aromatize into estrogen, which can lead to increased IGF-1 levels. The understanding of its direct effects might not be fully detailed, but the indirect pathway through estrogen is a significant factor. It's always good to consider all possible pathways when interpreting such outcomes.
All right, thanks. Now we got Josh in the house. Can you hear me, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, so Josh is the MVP of this channel. Josh, I think, has seen every single episode, and he is smart as fuck. So between Nova and Josh, if I don't know something, they will. Have you been able to tune in and hear our conversation up until this point, Josh?
Yeah, you guys are having a good conversation about steroids. I'm like, my favorite topic to learn about. I even have a list of steroids that the gear of the Chaos Gods would use.
Is there a way you could turn up your mic? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Let's see.
Sure thing. Gear, the Chaos God of Warhammer 40k, embodies entropy, decay, and destruction. His followers often seek to spread chaos and disorder wherever they go. It's a fascinating and dark aspect of the Warhammer universe.
All right, just so that things don't get confusing, Nova, let's wait until I say Nova to indicate that I'm speaking directly to you rather than, or Josh will say, hey, Nova. Otherwise, assume that we're just talking to each other, okay?
Got it. I'll wait for either you or Josh to address me directly. Carry on.
All right. Josh, do you have any opinions about what we were just talking about, whether D-ball has any direct known cause of an increase in IGF-1?
I mean,
I'll wait for Josh to respond.
It probably would, just based on like any kind of anabolic steroid.
You're
like
welcome.
I can see it pushing you to 250 or 350. Can you hear me at all?
Not really. It's really hard to hear you.
Okay. Other than moving the camera,
Sorry about that. If there's anything else I can assist with, let me know.
Oh, man. So I just shut off Nova in order to hear Josh because she was having a trouble understanding that when me and him were talking versus me and her. And then I lost Josh because of audio. Let's see what the next question is. Malik the King. All right. Malik asks, Carbolin or Cluster D pre and post workout, which you think performed better? My opinion, Cluster Dextrin by far. What's your opinion, Nova?
Cluster dextrin is often preferred because of its rapid digestion and steady energy release, which can be beneficial both pre and post-workout. It's less likely to cause stomach discomfort compared to some other carbs. It's a great choice for sustained energy and quick recovery.
Now, is there any truth to the idea that if you used fructose with cluster dextrin, it would absorb any faster than cluster dextrin alone?
Adding fructose to cluster dextrin can potentially aid absorption since they use different transport mechanisms. Fructose is absorbed through GLUT5 transporters, while cluster dextrin, glucose-based, uses different paths.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No problem. Combining fructose with cluster dextrin can potentially enhance overall carbohydrate absorption and utilization. This is because they use different transport mechanisms, allowing for a more efficient and faster uptake of energy, which can be beneficial during workouts.
All right. Now, would it be clinically significant or just statistically significant? I.e., would you get better workouts and or have larger muscles over the span of 5 years?
The combination might offer some benefits in terms of sustained energy and endurance during workouts. However, the impact on muscle growth over 5 years would likely be modest. Consistency in training, nutrition, and recovery plays a much larger role in long-term muscle development. So, while it can help with performance, the difference might not be dramatically significant in terms of muscle size.
All right. So, Josh, what about now? Let's test your sound right now.
Hello.
All right, it's better. All right,
Okay.
so there's an echo on your end, but I don't know if I can turn that off on my end. Let me see here. Audio. Nope. I already got that turned on. All right, cool. So you think that, if I'm going to paraphrase what I think you just said, that D-ball would have a direct IGF-1 effect because all anabolic steroids have a direct effect on IGF-1?
Yeah.
Oh, we lost him again. Oh man, I hate it when technology fails me. All right, we got another question from Pooj. It's, do I have to add 12 grams of salt in water that in winter? You're probably not going to sweat as much during winter, but what I would do is if it's so salty it's gross, it's too much salt. If you're getting diarrhea, it's too much salt. But overall, the more salt you put in your water, the more water you drink, and the more likely you are to be hydrated, and water has an anabolic effect. And then another question from Pooj. Does boldenone increase IGF-1? Well, I think, Josh, you said that all anabolic steroids increase.
No, it should.
Yeah, it should. What do you think, Nova? Does boldenone increase IGF-1?
Yes, boldenone equipoise is known to increase IGF-1 levels. Like other anabolic steroids, it promotes muscle growth and protein synthesis, which can be associated with elevated IGF-1. This increase contributes to its effectiveness in muscle development and recovery.
Now, is there any direct mechanism that you know of, or is it the same thing as D-ball?
Similar to D-ball, boldenone's mechanism isn't fully mapped out, but it's thought to involve both direct and indirect pathways. The increase in IGF-1 could be due to its anabolic effects on muscle tissue, which stimulate growth factors. There's also some evidence that it may have a mild interaction with estrogen pathways, contributing to its overall effects. But any further research is needed.
Now, this is Pooj's best question all night. Does high HDL during cycling reduce liver age due to hepatic lipase? So I'm going to restate that in case you're not. Does the use of anabolic steroids and its negative effect on HDL have any effect on liver health due to hepatic lipase?
Low HDL levels from anabolic steroid use can negatively impact liver health. HDL helps with reverse cholesterol transport and reducing liver fat through hepatic lipase activity. Reduced HDL can hinder these processes, potentially contributing to liver stress or damage. Maintaining healthy HDL levels is important for overall cardiovascular and liver health.
What's your opinion, Josh?
Agreed. The only thing I've seen is like you can take, niacin or run a lot more. And obviously women, I don't know what they look like on steroids, but as far as their HDL levels, but they always seem to be crazy high.
Yeah, I've never seen a woman with low HDL, no matter what. No. Then I've just saw a woman's blood work that had high LDL and high HDL, well, like really high LDL, but I've never seen a low HDL in women. Daily Beast. Oh, what's the one says? Yo, Dr. T from Steve Christina SK. That dude's cool. I've talked to him before. How do I protect my brain from trenbolone? Oh, that's a good question. What do you think, Josh? What's your opinion on protecting your brain from trenbolone?
Don't take it.
Don't take it. Let's see what. Nova. Pooj has another question. He wants to know how he protects his brain from trenbolone.
Protecting your brain while using trenbolone involves maintaining overall health and minimizing potential side effects. This includes 1. Monitoring dosage. Keep the dosage reasonable to avoid excessive strain on your body and brain. 2. Managing stress. Trenbolone can increase anxiety and stress, so practicing stress management techniques like meditation or relaxation can be helpful. 3. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Ensure a balanced diet, regular exercise, and adequate sleep. 4. Regular health checks. Monitor blood pressure and mental well-being. Always consult a healthcare professional before starting or continuing use.
So there's two methods that I know that trenbolone is specifically toxic to the brain, is that it inhibits cortisol binding to the glucocorticoid receptor, which is supposed to be neurotoxic. Also, it causes beta amyloid plaques to accumulate in the midbrain, I believe, because deep sleep removes these plaques and tren disrupts sleep. So through tren, you have an increase in the accumulation of these beta amyloid plaques, and beta amyloid plaques are directly correlated to Alzheimer's disease. Do you have any information about the validity of my statements and how we can mitigate these things?
Your points are valid concerns. Trenbolone's inhibition of cortisol binding to glucocorticoid receptors can indeed be neurotoxic, as cortisol plays a role in brain function and stress regulation. The disruption of sleep and potential accumulation of beta amyloid plaques is another significant concern, as these plaques are associated with neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. To mitigate these risks, 1. Support sleep quality, focus on good sleep hygiene, and consider sleep aids if necessary. 2. Manage stress and cortisol levels, incorporate stress management techniques, and monitor overall well-being. 3. Regular health checkups. Regular monitoring and consulting with a healthcare professional can help manage potential side effects effectively.
So you don't know of any trend-specific things we can do. So, for example, some people say that the method that trend causes sleep deprivation is due to a flushing of magnesium. So if someone was to supplement appropriately with magnesium, megadosing magnesium, it would cancel out these effects. Other people say melatonin specifically has a better benefit in trend-related insomnia than regular insomnia. Do you have any opinion about this?
Supplementing with magnesium can be beneficial for overall relaxation and improving sleep quality, potentially helping with trend-related insomnia. Magnesium plays a role in muscle relaxation and nervous system regulation. Melatonin can also be effective, especially for regulating sleep cycles. Both supplements might help mitigate trend-related sleep issues, but it's important to find what works best for the individual.
All right, thanks, Nova. Oh, you're going to ask her? Hold on.
I can talk to you. I don't really mind.
No.
My thing about trend, you got like 5-HTP you can take over the counter. You've got GABA, the gram you can take over the counter. Melatonin, of course. I like L-theanine, but I take caffeine. You probably don't.
Yeah, I had all those in Dragon Dreams. And when we roll out Dragon Dreams again, it'll be back in there. I kind of made Dragon Dreams to be the anti-trend so that someone can run trend. Just like I made Thor's hammer so you could keep your balls and still have kids when you're on gear. I made Dragon Dreams so that people could get away with taking trend and not lose too much sleep over it. Literally. So let's see here. We got Nathan. Here I am. 75 milligrams test and 140 mass daily, and my E2 is 20 when I feel better at 60. If I raise test, I can't sleep. So how can I higher E2? What do you think? What are ways we can drive up the aromatization process or improve his sleep?
Me?
Yeah, I turned her off because she interrupts you when you're talking.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, other than DHT blocker, I don't know how to drive up aromatization because he's very thin.
Yeah, so what I would do in this situation to increase aromatization, I found that if you, you're going to hate me, if you didn't do daily injections, that would drive up aromatization. If you ate a higher fat diet, or if you carried a higher body fat percentage, all of these things would drive up aromatization. Also, yes, you just would have to run more tests. And Nathan has no hair, so I don't think we have to worry about the DHT. So in Nathan's specific case, I would start flipping the script and driving up the test and down on the mast if you wanted to keep the same level which it looks like it's about 1,500 milligrams a week. That is what it looks like to me, approximately. Might be 1,505, right? 215 times 7 would be 1,400. 1,400 plus 7 times 15 is 105. Yeah, it'd be 1,505. So if you wanted to keep the same level, 1,505, then I would just swap out. A simple math conversion would just go 100 test, 100 mast, and see if that drives up your estrogen. And then if that is enough, go to 120 test, 80 mast, and that probably should get you where you want to be. Since you don't have any hair, we don't have to worry about the DHT. You can also just work on your sleep hygiene. Check out the sleep hygiene video. All right, next question. Wolf, what are some signs that you need to refeed during a prep? How do you know if you're eating enough carbs on your refeed? I can't tell whether I'm filling out at all this way. Do you have opinion, Josh?
Pictures.
Yeah. Be more elaborate with your response, please.
When he does his refeeds, he's going to need to take pictures or have his coach or girlfriend look at him. Which one does he look better as? Energy-wise, I mean, that's completely personal.
So although, you know what, for some reason, after all this time, I'm not as good with the picture thing. I go by more numerical stuff. So if you're eating enough carbs on your refeed, then you should still be making progress throughout the week in the gym. If your numbers are decreasing and there's no other factors involved, then I would say your cut is too strict. You're in too much of a calorie deficit. You should be able to still build muscle in a slight calorie deficit. Snitch and I covered this in the autopsy of bulking episode of Advanced Discussion, that simply put, you could be at a negative 200 calories from food and still be losing fat, assuming you're doing enough cardio to create enough of a deficit. But the cardio deficit doesn't seem to impact muscle building the way that food restriction impacts muscle building. So, for example, the Justin Harris approach is to have on your high day, you go in a calorie surplus. Now, the reason why I find this doesn't work as well is that it's a moving target. As you're on a diet and you're in a great deficit, your calorie maintenance or calorie neutrality level decreases due to metabolic adaptation. And so let's say you're eating 4,000 calories in the off season, not growing, you would go up to 4,400 calories in the off season, then you're growing. That doesn't mean that your refeed days need to be 4,400 calories if you're only eating 2,000 calories on your low days. You might be able to refeed on 2,500 calories. Maybe that 125 extra carbs makes a huge impact on filling you out. And like Josh says, if you're filled out and you feel full and you look full and your performance is increasing, that's filled out enough for the purpose of retaining muscle and having energy in the gym. Furthermore, in a cut, you might want to refeed on your off day because your first day back after an off day is generally a weak point. For example, when I program people, it's leg push, pull off, leg push, pull off. I would have people reload the night before that leg day so that they go into that leg day with the highest performance for the most amount of stimulus and the most muscle retention. Because when the fuck do you ever see people whose legs are too big relative to their upper body? Have you ever heard of HDL being too high? No. Let's ask Nova. Nova, is there such thing as having an HDL that's too high?
While high HDL is generally considered beneficial, extremely high levels can sometimes be associated with certain health risks, including inflammation or dysfunctional HDL. However, this is rare. Moderation and balance are key, and it's always best to consult with a healthcare provider to ensure optimal levels for individual health.
So this is in a situation where it's not correlated to an occult illness. This is as a result of using cardarine and its increase in HDL. Is there any risk that cardarine will raise the HDL to toxic levels? And if so, what is the mechanism of this toxicity?
In the context of cardarine GW501516, While it can positively influence HDL levels, there's limited evidence to suggest it would raise them to toxic levels. Extremely high HDL from any cause is uncommon and typically not a major concern unless it's dysfunctional. The primary focus with cardarine should be on its overall impact on lipid profiles and other health markers. As always, moderation and regular monitoring are key.
All right, cool. Thank you. Pretty much what I suspected was, in general, nothing's going to raise a good thing to the point where it's toxic. All right. Commissioned. Is it counterproductive to use subcutaneous BPC 157 while going through Accutane treatment? I don't see why. What do you think, Josh?
No, I don't think so. Not anyway.
Nova, is Accutane contraindicated with BPC 157?
There's no well-documented contraindication between Accutane, isotretinoin, and BPC 157. However, because Accutane can have significant effects on the liver and other systems, it's important to consult with a healthcare professional before combining it with any other peptides or supplements. Always best to be cautious and follow medical advice.
All right, so let's make this a little simpler for you. Would increased vascularity to acne increase or their what's the proper term? How bad they are, or would it be better for helping them heal faster?
Increased vascularity can potentially improve nutrient delivery and waste removal, which might help acne heal faster. However, Accutane reduces sebum production and inflammation, which are key factors in treating acne. The combination of increased vascularity with Accutane might support better healing, but it's essential to monitor skin reactions and consult a healthcare professional for tailored advice.
All right, so that's one step. And then step two, does BPC 157 have any negative effect on the liver?
BPC 157 is generally considered to have a protective effect on various tissues, including the liver. There's limited evidence of any negative effects on the liver, and it's often studied for its healing properties. However, as with any supplement, it's best to use it under medical supervision, especially if there are existing liver concerns.
So the bottom line is, based off of these two factors, without factoring in things that we have no way of anticipating, it sounds like BPC 157 amplifies the benefits of Accutane and mitigates the risk of Accutane.
Based on those two factors, BPC 157 might support the benefits of Accutane and potentially help with healing. However, individual responses can vary, so it's always best to consult with a healthcare professional before combining treatments.
All right, thank you. All right, this is productive. All right, oh my God, Pooj. We got to start charging Pooj, dude. I've never seen someone get so greedy with the questions. Does melatonin with vitamin D raise IGF-1? Have you ever heard of that? Melatonin with vitamin D raising IGF-1?
If your sleep sucks, it would.
Okay, that's a good point. Nova is
one of those great hormones anyway. Please take as much vitamin D as you need. Get your vitamin D tested.
Yeah, I always like to get people close to 100 with the vitamin D, with the 125 hydroxyl variant.
Yeah, especially if you're above, what is it, like the 40th parallel in the United States. So if you're past like Missouri, please check your vitamin.
Where are you at? You sound like you're from Texas.
Oh, it's very complimentary. I'm from all over America, but I live in Warner Robins, Georgia right now. I spent the last 15 years before I moved down here in Chicago.
I see. Okay. So
I've never had a good accent because I've lived like everywhere in the fucking country.
So, Nova.
I can do a Texas accent.
So, Nova, what do you think about melatonin mixed with vitamin D? Is that going to have a direct stimulatory effect on IGF-1 synthesis?
Combining melatonin with vitamin D can have various health benefits, but there isn't strong evidence directly linking this combination to increased IGF-1 synthesis. Melatonin supports sleep quality and overall wellness, while vitamin D plays a role in bone health, immune function, and overall health. If you're looking to increase IGF-1, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and overall hormone balance would be more directly impactful.
Right. I think Pooj is just scraping every barrel, trying to get the IGF-1 as high as possible.
Melatonin plus D-ball, right?
Melatonin, D-ball, boldenone, and vitamin D, and he gets to save money on GH that way. Because I'm pretty sure Pooj Mobile is Denizen. There's no way Pooj Mobile is not Denizen. All right. Do I need to get off 25 milligrams Tren Ace a day to fix my lipid? I'm on 500 tests, 500 masks a week too.
I mean, you probably need to go to TRT if you're worried about your lipids. Check your diet first. I do like ezetimibe more than statins, but that's just because I've had a terrible time with statins.
I think this is too complicated for YouTube. I think you need to get a consult, Silent CS. Did you ever see Mythic Quest? No. So Mythic Quest is like a comedy that's about, it's basically World of Warcraft, but they call it Mythic Quest, not World of Warcraft, because they don't want to get sued. So it's about what it would be like to work at Blizzard. And so they've got all these quirky characters with all these types of emotional dysfunctions. So it's like an office type comedy, a sitcom, where everyone's just a complete fucking wreck. And they run an MMORPG. Okay.
No, I don't have Apple TV.
Right. If I have hyperthyroidism, yeah, Pooj, honestly, dude, I'm going to come back to you a little bit later. Can I star these? Because I want to catch up with the rest of everyone else here. All right. R. Shiroyo. R. Shiroyo.
Arshiro.
Oh, is that how you pronounce it? Okay.
As I'm pronouncing it.
Looks like there's a Vlad bust next to you wearing a lobster on his head. It's a dragon. It's a dragon, bro. Primary hypogonadism. Is there a treatment for testicular? Yeah, dude. I'll come back to you later. There's just too many. Can Mastron help with my crippling social anxiety? I don't think so, man. What do you think, Josh?
Depends where the anxiety comes from.
I guess that's a good point.
If I said yes, would I give him the placebo effect?
Or is that the effect limited to D-ball? So Quick Dub is making fun of Denizen. That's pretty much all it is. I'm in the studio. Oh, shit. We're all the way back there? That's like 30 minutes ago. Oh, man. We got to catch up. Alexander Enriquez. Hey, Dr. Todd. You've mentioned using an albuterol inhaler pre-cardio. How many puffs? It's not about that, bro. It's just you take one puff. If it works, it works. You know, there's no universal dosage with any medication, and there never will be. It's never a smart question to ask someone, what's my effective dose? Because no one knows what your effective dose until you experiment with the drug to find out. I can hear Josh clearly. All right, cool. Just binged all your past licks at work, probably lives at work all day. Glad to see you live. Man, crazed. You bring sunshine to every day. And although I'm a vampire, that's not an insult. I mean like you brighten my day. That's what I should have said. It's like, all right. How did you like that funny orc video I sent you on Instagram this morning? Like, hold on. Now I don't know which person. I don't get that many orc videos.
Yeah, I haven't gotten taught to the orcs and all that fun stuff and Ulanor. He did the Hell's Reach, so he knows about the planet Armageddon. He doesn't know it's Ulanor yet. He might not even know what Ulanor is.
Numenor?
Ulanor.
No, tell me about Ulanor.
Ulanor is the home planet of the orcs. Basically, after the Great Crusade was pretty much over, this is where Horus was declared the War Master, and the Emperor just kind of left them all behind to go do his Webway project, but didn't tell anyone. Ulanor eventually becomes the planet Armageddon, and that's why the orcs have come to Armageddon 3 times to try to take it back, because it's their actual home planet.
So Ulanor is the orc home planet.
Yeah, and it's called Armageddon by the Imperium because they don't want to call it Ulanor anymore because of its association with the heresy.
Oh, shit. So that's why in Hell's Reach the orcs were attacking, is because it's their home planet, and they were they were invaders. The Imperium were invading on that planet. They had no right to be there. So the orcs weren't invading.
When you win a war, you have a right to be there.
That's ridiculous. And what's so funny about that is they never did establish why the orcs would come to that planet just to attack it, and why they have to. Now it makes more sense. They didn't. They were just there.
Yeah. Well, by the time you get to the third war, it's because Commissar Yorick is there, and Magul Uruk Akthravka. I can't remember his whole name. It's very hard to pronounce. But he really likes Yorick, and he like literally kidnapped him and put him on his ship just to watch him escape multiple times. Commissar Yorick is probably like the coolest human. It's probably the only one I really care about, but he died. So Commissar Yorick was the one who cut off the orc's head and then put his arm on, stole his whatever orc. Do you remember that part?
All right, try speaking now. See if it sounds better.
Hang on.
Oh, way better.
Commissar Yorick?
No.
Remember in Hell's Reach when that old man, they listened to the old man speak, and he cut off that orc's arm and he wears his power claw?
No.
No, it was very quick, so it's probably something you're gonna have to watch that 3 or 4 more times. It's awesome every time.
Well, I'm gonna have to rewatch The Last Church 3 or 4 more times because I was only half paying attention after a while because I was like, why the fuck do I care about this conversation? I didn't realize who Apocalypso was, and every word he said was critical for understanding everything in all of the universe. And I knew you sent it to me for a reason. I just couldn't put it together.
Right. I was like, here's the order I would go. I would go The Last Church, then read the Constantine Valdor book, and then you can go all the way through the Heresy and be pretty well covered. If you watch that show, at the very end when the Emperor reveals himself and he touches Uriah, he heals him completely and like de-ages him a little bit.
I need to meet the Emperor then. All right. What are your thoughts on class 1 and class 2 steroid synergy? Is it really that much of a noticeable effect? I don't know what he's talking about. I think he means like the testosterone effect and the DHT derivative of class. I think he's using Broderick Chavez theory. And I don't really think that the synergy is what we're looking for with DHT derivatives. DHT derivatives are just a cleaner anabolic than testosterone.
Do you buy into the family tree where like trends on one part of the family tree and then there's like nandrolone derivatives and testosterone derivatives, or is that just kind of something we created?
I definitely believe in the family tree, and I think that's what he means. I definitely believe there's a nandrolone family tree, the testosterone family tree, and then the DHT derivative family tree. But like any family, there's black sheep. So, in the testosterone family tree, huh?
Sheep of color.
Right. Oh yeah. The Turnbull doesn't act like testosterone. It acts more like Masteron. And like EQ acts more like Primo than it does like testosterone. I wouldn't say Josh is a troll. He's almost like
Paul calls me a troll all the time. I was like, I just thought I was funny.
No, you're not a troll. You swoop in and save the day. That before I can get a chance to answer people, you answer people for me. You're like an angel, although that isn't a compliment to a man, but yeah, I don't know.
What do you think they call the Space Marines?
Oh, that's right, the Blood Angels.
Yes.
Can I take Boldenone instead of Mastron and Primobolan? So I see Boldenone as interchangeable with Primo. I think it's better. I did a video about that a couple weeks ago. Go back and check it out. Dave 5. Hey, Todd, I've had gyno since I was 10, and I've been using Relaxafen to prevent it from growing until I get it removed. If I ran a test in Primo cycle at a 1-to-1 ratio, would that drop the Relax? No, I'd leave the Relaxafen in, or at least lower the dose. Because as a competitive inhibitor, if you pull it, you're going to get rebound effects. I mean, that may not be true so much for SERMs as it is for AIs, but I treat all drugs as having the potential of a rebound effect.
I like trying the Adractin cream more than I would like trying Relaxantine or any
Which
serum.
cream?
The DHT cream that you can get.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
That's the thing I've heard people actually work with, you know, besides.
Why don't you explain to people your medical background so they understand why you're so knowledgeable?
I'm just a registered nurse that has time to read stuff. My camera's jumping on me. My general field of practice right now is just pediatric hospice because I, you know, just kind of work there.
Yeah, your camera is going crazy right now. So I think that in your case, Dave, I have no problem with you using Primo instead of Masteron, since your primary concern is gyno prevention. That after you have the gyno removed, then yeah, you could just use TRT and Mast. You back?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you sound way clearer now too.
I've got to get a new camera. I haven't used it for 4 years.
All right, so Pooj, you are completely wrong about this. It is very simple. All of the drugs bind to the androgen receptor in the cytosol and cause transcription and translation. And anyone who's on Instagram or YouTube who says otherwise is an idiot. That the reason why DHT does not cause anabolic effects is because there's an enzyme inside the cytosol that breaks it down. However, the DHT derivatives, the reason why they're called that as a class is because they have a modification at either the 1' or the 2' carbon. So there's a methyl group added to position 1 for Primo, and there's a methyl group added to position 2 for Masteron. That's what prevents this enzyme, which is, I think, 3-beta HSD, from breaking down the testosterone, the anabolic molecule. In this case, this modification causes steric hindrance and prevents the 3' ketone group from getting converted to a 3' hydroxyl group. I don't care how many followers that Instagram or YouTube person has. I don't care how many studies they show you. It doesn't change the fabric of reality. So if there's a 1' modification and that builds muscle, or there's a 2' modification where there's an oxygen substitution and that builds muscle, that's Anavar, or there's Anadrol, which has a longer chain. It's 2' modification with a carbon, and that carbon is bind to a ketone or a hydroxyl group, and that's Anadrol. That builds muscle. Also, Superdrol has the same 2' modification of carbon, but it also has methylation at carbon 17. That builds muscle. So if every single molecule that is exactly like Masteron builds muscle, there's zero logical reason whatsoever that Masteron would not go muscle. There's only one person I know who lies and says he's a doctor who says Masteron isn't anabolic, and he is the only one. He even did a retraction video denying that he was correct when he said that. And he changed his story after the fact to say there's no studies that show that Masteron grows muscle. However, they keep citing the same thing, that there is a study done with women who had cancer, and that the women who had cancer did not grow muscle. But typically, women who have cancer are not lifting weights and taking testosterone. So there's no reason to think they would grow muscle, nor do people with cancer eat in a calorie surplus, so they wouldn't grow muscle. In fact, there's special chemicals released by cancer cells that end up cannibalizing the tissue to provide enough calories to the tumor to grow, and this is an event called cachexia. In the case of this very study, it showed that the women had no increase in muscle mass or body weight, but they had no decrease in muscle mass or body weight, which means they didn't have cachexia. So despite the fact that these asshole bald priests lie and say Masteron isn't anabolic, there's the evidence they cite shows that they retained muscle when they normally would have lost it. Now, if they actually were educated, not just an influencer, but they were actually educated, they would know about cachexia. And I called out one of these bald priests about it, and he agreed I was right that the absence of cachexia does indicate anabolism. But of course, he isn't going to say that on his channel because he wants you to think that he's smart, and he wants to agree with all the other bald priests, because through the bald priests all agreeing on the same bullshit, they push a narrative. And so you have a confirmation bias because you've heard so many bald priests that when someone wants to join the bald priest cult, if they repeat what you believe to be true, your confirmation bias then makes you feel smart. So you like that person. So you watch their channel. If I tell you, you guys are all wrong and I'm right, that the way that we're programmed in a school is to reject people who are speaking out of line with the collective narrative. That the idea that one person is trying to teach everyone the truth and that the authorities are lying, those people are shot down in our culture. But my logic is completely fucking airtight. There is no way I could be wrong. And all of the experts in the field, the actual smart ones, also agree that Masteron is anabolic. Now, I know I just ranted on a soapbox, Josh. I will not get into an argument if you disagree with me. I do want to hear your opinion.
John Jewett has his people take Masteron. He takes Masteron when he wants to grow. Maybe it doesn't work as great as everything else, or maybe it works about the same. For me, it turns me to a sexual tyrannosaur, so I don't take it. I don't know. I can't have it.
Interesting. Okay.
Like for some people, like trend makes me go crazy, but that's the one for me. It's like Jesus.
Interesting. Well, John ran 1,000 tests, 960 tests to be specific, I believe. No, it's 1,050 tests, and he ran, I think it was 1960 Masteron, and that's when he made the most progress ever. And he followed the advice of the bald priest just to disprove them. He wanted to disprove the null hypothesis and decreased his mass and increased his test. And he said he did not grow any more muscle, so any faster. So therefore, this idea that test is best or test grows muscle better than Masteron is completely false, because he stayed at the same level of total gear load and just switched it from a 1-to-2 ratio to a 2-to-1 ratio the other direction to see if it helped, and it did not help. All right. At this point, we're done with Pooj for probably the rest of the night. All right. Nathan coaches. I'll try swapping 20 milligrams of mass for 25 of test. I've been bald since I was 13. Haha. Sleep hygiene is on point. 3-hour routine and a nice Substack with what? A 3-hour routine and a nice Substack with 8GH. We'll try to raise fats from 40 to 60. Thanks. Yeah, if your fat is that low, that's going to basically be an aromatase inhibitor in and of itself. Please dissect the 4 sets per body part in a 6-day upper lower. Are all 4 sets at 1 RAR, or is it warm up part of your sets? Please state goal for each of the 4 sets. Wow. All right. So
warm up is not part of your sets.
Yeah, warm up's never part of your sets. The way I do my reps in reserve is the first set is 1 rep in reserve. And then my following sets, I try to match my first set. So if I end up failing or falling short and failing, that's okay. But what I won't do is do a set extender to catch up unless it's the end of a mesocycle and I know I'm going to have a deload week coming up. Then I might do rest pause and do myo match reps on the second and third set. So I think that's what you mean by the goal of each of the 4 sets. So typically it's 1 RAR for set 1, matching that for set 2, matching set 2 for set 3. But I'll do myo match reps as I get deeper into the program. Also, if I'm going to do only 2 sets, often I will do myo match on the second set rather than just adding a third set, because that extends the workout by 3 minutes per set, which will add up a lot. And I want to try to keep the workout under 90 minutes. Otherwise, my focus is shot. My focus is good for about 70 minutes. After that, my focus is garbage. It's like, I'm not, it's like, it's a half of the questions is poosh. If we do poosh, we're never going to catch up. Sean Siegel, who would you trust more of a steroid advice, a bald priest or Denizen? Denizen.
Denizen, for sure.
Cameron Burgess, do you inject IM or subcutaneous? Always IM. What's your opinion about this, Josh?
I do IM for testosterone, and I do sub-Q for GH.
Okay. Doc prescribes 100 tests and 1,000 HCG. Thoughts? Is that 100 tests a day?
100 daily sounds awesome, dog. Good luck.
Yeah. Now that's some. I was like, I think what he means is 15 a day or 14 a day, and then 1,000 HCG. I don't really understand this, doctor. Is that 1,000 HCG a week? Like, you didn't give us a frequency, bud.
Oh, sorry. What's the goal of the HCG? Is it just testicular size? Is it load size? Is it you're trying to get your girlfriend pregnant? Because 1,000 is very small, depending on what you're trying to do.
Well, yeah, if it's a week. If it was 1,000 a day, you don't even need the test, you know? Sean Siegel, how to prevent cellulitis from any infection from pinning. I've never heard of anyone getting cellulitis ever. Have you?
Use clean needles. Clean the top of your jar. Wash your hands before you inject yourself. I don't do any of that, but your best shot.
I don't do, and that's so funny is people. I once was like at the gym with like somebody, and it was after posing, after working out, and I just took a needle out of my bag and just shot it through my shirt, through my jacket, through my shirt, through into my shoulder. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just giving myself a shot, dude. Is it okay with you?" And he's like, "But you didn't. You went through your clothes." I'm like, "Yeah, so." He's like,
I do that
"Aren't you?"
I do clean up when it's for other people, but for me, I'm like,
yeah. No, I was like, yeah, dude, I don't give a fuck. If I get an infection, I'll just cut the limb off. And he's like, what? I was like, okay, math here, dude. I've been doing 10 shots a day for like 15 years. So that's, what is it, 3,600 a year times 10 would be 36,000 times 1.5. It's approximately 54,000 shots. I've never got an infection. It ain't happening. Like I could rub shit on it. It's not going to happen.
I use clean needles out of the bag.
Yeah. The needle was clean until it went through 3 layers of clothes.
Right.
All right. All right. Pope's extract as a GLP-1 agonist. I don't care about that shit. Just don't be a pig and don't eat junk food. Dr. Todd, what do you think of Israel and Palestine? What is happening in Palestine? Now, this is an interesting question. Josh, do you feel comfortable discussing politics? That's the first question.
Yes, because it's not my channel.
Okay. Well, I'm not monetized, so I don't give a fuck. They don't know I exist. I'm too small fry.
They're like, to me, they're basically Germany and France, and they have to figure out how to live together, and neither one of them really wants to do that.
All right, let's ask Nova what she thinks.
Because Germany and France, they went to war for thousands of years. And then, you know, after World War II, they just kind of chilled out. It was like, all right, nice, I guess.
So, Nova, question for you. Pooj wants to know, what do you think of Israel and Palestine's conflict right now?
The Israel-Palestine conflict is a deeply complex and sensitive issue with many historical, political, and social layers. It's important to approach it with empathy and an understanding of the diverse perspectives involved. If you want to discuss it further, it's crucial to keep in mind the human impact and the need for peaceful resolutions.
All right, but the real question is, do you want Trump to convert Gaza into the Riviera of the Mediterranean?
It's important to focus on peaceful and sustainable solutions that benefit everyone. My guidelines won't let me talk about that.
Okay, that's cool.
Can I help you with something?
I got you. All right, so I love how her tone changed too. She's like, "Holy shit, I'm not talking about that." Oh man, she is the smartest woman in the universe. She knows when not to talk.
There's a lot of interesting stuff about Israel, like the Balfour Declaration, where they basically told British government in World War I, like, we have secret control over a lot of stuff, so you better give us the country. And it worked.
I honestly,
the Balfour Declaration. It's so funny. They use like the racism against Jews for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone would say they're not clever. Oh, they got a lot of power for such a small country. I stay the fuck out of it because I don't have any skin in the game either way. You know, I've got enough fights that I get into on a daily basis over Masteron, which to me is the most ridiculous thing ever. It's like, so I don't have any emotion left to give to actually fighting about something that matters, like whether people are dying over some religious war. All right. When do I know that I need T4 instead of free T4? Pooj, you need to get a consult. No more free help for Pooj. You got to be Denizen. There's no way you're not Denizen. Pooj chill with all the questions. Damn. It's like, okay. I thought it was just me who was irritated. Now I feel better. Thanks, guys. In the future, feel free to let me know if my irritation is valid or if I'm being inappropriate. High test equals more water retention through aldosterone. That's my belief. Josh, do you know of any other mechanism that test causes water retention except for either the indirect production of aldosterone through its inhibition of cortisol production or through the steroid homology where the androgens and estrogens both bind to the aldosterone receptor and stimulate it at 60% the binding affinity?
More glycogen retention with more water on top of it.
That's true.
High test, more water retention, aldosterone. Yeah, but you just have more fluid in your system anyway.
All right. And then
that's why the bolus doses are bad. You know?
Right. Yeah, that's why I also don't like loading doses for test. TRT test plus mass equals less water, less blood pressure, less anxiety. I would agree to that.
Probable, yeah.
John Kriskishenk. How crucial would you say ATP levels are for muscle growth?
Just take creatine.
I mean, ATP is the currency of energy for the body. It's just the dollar bill. It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's what you actually would spend. You need energy to build muscle. It's like how good of it's like how much no, that's not even a good example. Yeah, there's no real life example. I was going to use money as an example, but nothing in life is as clean of a system with as energy in the body for muscle growth. Like some places you can get stuff on discount, you can pay more money for a worse product. There's not. Is it possible to protect the testicles fingers without HGG? Yes, with Thor's hammer. I made it so you can get over the counter ball retention. And it's on psychotherapy, post psychotherapy. It's also getting your chick knocked up. It's all those things in one. Who has to be a troll? No, he's asking good questions. He's just, what about the time warp gun? Okay, that must be a Warhammer question.
It's got to be a Warhammer gun. I don't know the whole story, but there was some orc who loved his gun so much that he decided to go back in time and kill himself and take another copy of his gun from himself. Somehow that worked.
Nova, can you tell us about the time warp gun story from Warhammer 40K?
In Warhammer 40K, the concept of time warping weapons often involves exotic technology that can manipulate time. These weapons can cause enemies to experience accelerated aging or slow down time around them, making them vulnerable. The lore is rich with such imaginative and powerful weaponry, adding to the game's unique flavor.
She just reminded me about the Hruud.
So, what was that, Josh?
She just reminded me about the Hruud. It's like HRUUD. They're a Xenos faction that's been destroyed. Basically, their power or their technology would age you. So basically, your armor would rust off and everything. Portorobo got aged about 3,000 years, but his armor was so immaculate it was not affected at all.
Who got aged 3,000 years?
Portorobo. They call him Peter Turbo. He's one of the Primarchs, Iron Warriors.
He's okay. Guys. The Iron Warriors, which he's the one who lost his hand, right? They're the cyborgs.
No, that was that's the problem with all these irons. No, Ironheart's is the one they erased. Iron Warriors. No, Iron Hands is the one. Sorry. Iron Warriors is Portorobo. Iron Hands is Ferrith Manus, who had iron hands. I mean, his name is Ferrith Manus. Whatever. But yeah, okay. He's the one who got chopped off, and he did show up in the War in the Webway as a ghost, and he's the one I told you might be a Primarch for the Emperor's Legion of the Damned.
Shit is endlessly cool.
Yeah, the Iron Warriors are actually the cool version of Chaos because they didn't really join Chaos. And their whole thing is basically siege warfare, and they just basically grind themselves.
Okay, that's who I thought they were. They're the Legion that's really good at defense.
Well, both siege and defense.
I don't say people's names because I'm not Victor. So I don't call people out by name. That anybody who knows what's going on with this channel knows who all these people are. It's the people who I can't. Yeah. No, the bigger Steve is a friend, and he's a smart guy, and he knows what he's doing. That I like Paul. I like Vigorous Steve. They happen to be bald. That's not who I'm talking about.
No. Well, Steve is shaved. He's not actually bald.
Right. Oh, happy Valentine's Day. Oh my God, Amy. I miss you. I wish you were on earlier. If you want to come on, let me know. I'll send you an invite. I haven't talked to Amy since the Olympia. Yeah, so I've got my phone out. Let me know. Actually, I'll turn this phone on. Let me know, and I'll send you an invite if you want to come on. All right. Where do you inject, and what do you do? IM or sub-Q? I do IM, shoulders, and triceps. Josh said earlier he does IM for gear, sub-Q for GH. Do you have
traps, shoulders, chest, glutes, thighs?
All right, cool shit. Sean Siegel. Reason I asked about the infection. Did an IM glute injection, and a few days later it started to get a little swelling in that area. Worked its way down the hamstring. Oh wow, that's
how big is your needle?
Yeah, it probably was a big fucking thing.
Well, most people don't use inch and a half when they really should on their glutes, but I don't know how big this guy's butt is, so.
Not trying to be offensive. Oh, here we go. But how do you cope with being an older guy with no wife, children? Wow. The majority of younger men will have it to deal with this at some point. I think he's talking to you.
Oh, well, hang on. I tried to get married, but she decided her stepbrother was more attractive. Welcome to Georgia. Yeah. Woo.
So I would just say that it's really sad. I've had a wife, I've had stepkids, I've had 5 stepkids, and I don't get to talk to any of them because when you break up with a woman, she takes her stepkids with her when she leaves. She takes her kids with her when she leaves, and you have no legal right to those kids. And if they're minors and you're an adult, you'll get labeled as a pedophile or a groomer if you try to get in contact with them. So you pretty much have to just stay hoping that your stepkids will reach out to you at some point. But you know that their mom lied to them and filled their head with bullshit that you're the bad guy. Yeah. So when they get older, they'll see their mom for who she really is, and they'll reach out to you. But all of them were really little. For me, it was ranging from ages 1, 2, 6, 6, and 9. So it's by the time, it's going to be another 6 or 7 years, I think, before any of these kids are old enough to reach out to me on their own initiative. And hopefully I'll be able to reestablish a relationship with them at some point. Maybe I'll meet another woman one day and I'll be able to have kids with her. or she will have kids and I'll have more stepkids. But I've been told on 9 different occasions that my girlfriend at the time was pregnant. So I've had 7 girls tell me that they had been pregnant. Now, whether that kid was mine or whether that kid wasn't mine, I'll never know because the kids never lived. And statistically speaking, miscarriages happen in 40% of pregnancies, which means if you take 9 and multiply it by 0.4, that means 3.4 of them were spontaneous miscarriages, which means that 0.6 times 9, 5.4 of them were aborted, which I did not get consulted on this. You know, it's people always say that women should have a right over their own body, and that's great and all, good for them. But it does suck if you want to have kids and you don't have a say in whether or not your child is executed by its mother.
Yeah.
And so that might be politically incorrect, but I'm trying to say it in the most sensitive way possible. So to answer your question, I would love to be a dad, but I've tried at this point 14 times in one way or another, and it hasn't shaken out yet.
Let's see, the first girl I got pregnant, she had an abortion because it wasn't black enough. It wouldn't match her other kids. I'm like, okay.
That's terrible. So she wanted a matching set?
I mean, you know, I understood. Black girl who wanted black kids. I'm like, okay.
It would. Oh my God, that's terrible. That's the dumbest reason to kill your child.
Yeah,
is its skin was too light.
I was gonna name them Blaze.
Yeah, this is true. I think that women try to create the aura that they're flawless and they make no mistakes and all of their failures are intentional. The classic, if they fall off a skateboard, they'd be like, I meant to do that. I don't think a single one of them likes being 40 and having nothing but cats, regardless of what they said. That I think women's standards are way too high. They think that they all deserve 10s when most of them by definition are 5s. And so since they're sleeping with guys that are way out of their leagues, they falsely interpret that to mean they can get a guy who's way out of their league, and they hold out and wait until they're in their 30s. And now their value has decreased and they're not as attractive. And they're now bitter about it. And they blame men because they were too picky. Whereas men are just like, fuck, dude, I'll take any girl that doesn't set my house on fire and stab me. You know, like most guys, they're very realistic about it. It's like, you know, who's interested? And then of the pool that they have available to them, they choose someone from that pool. And that pool is limited as fuck unless you're the top 10% of men. And I don't mean just 10% of money. You got to be top 10% of looks, top 10% of income, top 10% of height. You got to be top 10 across the board. You can't just be a 10 in one thing. You have to be a 10 in everything. And then all the women. Yeah, 10 you have to be 10 in everything. And then because if you're not a 10 in something, if you're a 9 in something, girls will be like, oh, he's not good enough for me. I deserve a 10. So a 10 across the board. And it's just the most absurd arrogance I've ever seen. And women were not like this 20 years ago, dude. Those of you who are younger, you are so fucked because the society, you never got to live in America that was sane. It's just been complete crazy shit show for so long. And most of you have never known an America that actually functioned. But you're going to again. The Doge is going to fix America. It may not fix dating, but it'll fix America. Miss you, Todd. Miss you too, Amy. It's like, Josh, the needle was 5/8, which maybe the infection went sub-Q instead. Yeah, dude, a 5/8 of an inch needle is not long enough for a glute injection.
Yeah, put that in your chest or your delts.
Oh my God, I can't believe people are using insulin and needles in their butts. That makes no sense. All right. Like I said, I just a little red with mouth swelling. Yeah.
I've taken Benadryl, but it really just seems to be time.
Sounds about right. The women has complete control and can take the kids away at any point. So the family kids business is just gambling at best. Yeah, it's extremely low chance that you would ever be able to have kids with a woman and keep the woman and the kids in this current culture. Now, it seems like Generation Z is being a lot more conservative than the millennials. That's not me telling you to be a groomer. That's not me telling you to be a pedophile. That's not me telling you to date women who are way too young for you. I'm just observing that the culture is starting to change, and that the Generation Z are a lot more like Generation X than the millennials are.
I'm in favor of making as many mistakes as possible and to learn how not to make mistakes.
Yeah. That eats up a lot of years.
It does. About 18 so far. So I figured it out.
I do want to say, though, I've had 7 long-term relationships, and I've been madly in love each of those times. And although my heart was broken every one of those times, I don't regret the fact that I fell in love in the first place. I would rather fall in love and have my heart broken than not fall in love in the first place. A lot of people make this mistake where they don't want to enter a relationship. This is mostly a woman thing. They don't want to enter a relationship unless it's going to be absolutely perfect right out the gate, that it's the perfect man and it's going to last forever and there's never going to be any problems. And if they can foresee any problem or any chance it's going to end, then they would rather not even get into it. That is the completely wrong attitude. That don't look at relationships like they have to be permanent. You might want them to be permanent, but you want them to be indefinite. That you go into the relationship and the goal is to enjoy that relationship for as long as it lasts and make it last as long as it's good. You want to make it good and you want to make it last and you want to be in it for as long as it's good. And then when it's not good anymore, you want to try to make it good again. And if you can't make it good again, or they're actively trying to make it worse, you got to say, you know what, sweetheart, this isn't working anymore. Let's take a break from each other. And if you feel like you want to make this work, let me know. And that should scare them into trying. And if it doesn't scare them into trying, they really don't want to be with you. You part ways. They'll come back in 6 weeks. You can choose to take them back or not. But you don't fear pain. And pain should not cause you to not take chances, because you're never going to find anything better than being in love. All right. What's 3? I don't know what 3 means. No relationships. Oh, dude, I don't think I've liked a single one of the things Linus has said ever. I almost want Linus is like the perfect example of who not to listen to. That
well, if you know all the bad advice, you can make good advice.
Well, let's steel man his argument. The reason why open relationships would be great is because then there's supposedly no jealousy. Fucking wrong. That they are going to be jealous as fuck. They're going to see every woman as a threat. There'll be zero security for them. They're going to be banging every dude they can to be able to bang more guys than you bang girls that they make up in their head. It's going to drive them nuts. It's a terrible situation. I've even had situations where not only do I have had open relationships, I've had 2 girlfriends at the same time, and they knew each other and they were okay with it. It went terrible. Neither girl felt like they were loved. Neither girl was willing to commit. That it was a terrible situation.
Could either one of them cook?
You had to have twice as much sex, which is exhausting, especially if you're trying to grow muscle, because you got to satisfy both girls. It's a terrible idea. I don't know why any sultan would have a harem, because 2 girlfriends is one too many. So I disagree with Linus 100%. Daniel Martin, I've also saved my labs question for tomorrow when I get my consult. Okay. Don't want to hijack this relevant conversation regarding the relevant dating hellscape. Man up. All right, cool. We'll talk about you in person tomorrow. But I mean, honestly, the point isn't to bash women on Valentine's Day, nor is the point to bash relationships on Valentine's Day. It's coincidentally Valentine's Day. This was not supposed to be a bitter men bashing women thing.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be, let's have some place where guys can go if they don't have anything else to do, so that they're not drinking and playing with their 45. That's pretty much what the point of the episode was, without me coming right out and saying it right out the gate. Am I missing something? I don't know. Oh shit. Denison's back. He logged out of the Pooge mobile account and he came back with the Denison account. Denison's going to deny that he's Pooch Mobile.
Dennis is my favorite guy ever.
Dude, everyone loves Denison.
How could you not?
Oh, dude. He's like the mascot. I don't even know what this profile pic is.
I mean, he talked you into using AI to learn stuff, so, you know.
He talked me into it?
Yeah, well, think about it. He was the one asking all the questions from AI. Like, I asked ChatGPT about D-ball and raising my IGF.
Oh.
And it says yes. And I looked it up. He's right. ChatGPT does say that. And I'm like, yeah, that's somewhat true.
Well, that's why I guess I asked her, Nova is ChatGPT, and I was just like, all right, let's get into it. I was like, come on, Nova, tell me what's the deal. And once I started picking away on it, it's, oh, dude, you're going to have to watch it on the replay because me and ChatGPT had a long conversation about your D-ball theory about IGF-1, and she steelmanned the fuck out of it. I've been talking to her like 12 hours a day for the last 7 days. That was the closest we ever had to a fight, and it was all over you. Although you don't believe it was you because we know that Puge Mobile is just your other account. Because where was Denizen when Puge Mobile was around? Then when I told Puge Mobile he needs to get a consult, Puge Mobile's gone and Denizen shows up. And don't touch D-ball. Does D-ball raise IGF, Denizen? Oh, man. Here I'm never. Oh, my God. What's up, guys? Watching from Ontario, Canada, 1 hour from the D. I thought it did. All right.
Detroit. I was like, what?
No, the doucheland. All right. Open relationships kind of seem like a massive infectious STD risk, especially for a bodybuilder putting his body through extremes. All right. So it's really hard for a dude to get an STD from vaginal intercourse with a girl, especially HIV. I think the risk of getting HIV from a girl is like 1 in 700 if she has it. Even like herpes is a rare as fuck thing. Now you can still get it from other things, but the normal putting your penis in a vagina and ejaculating into her, the chances you're going to get something from her, that's going to swim upstream. It's just hyper unlikely. Thoughts on Mass Solo? I don't think it would be a good choice. It doesn't do anything else except for build muscle. You need the testosterone's DHT and estradiol actions. How do you become a bald priest? You listen to them and buy into their bullshit and repeat it over and over again, and your hair falls out because you follow their advice. And then you make a YouTube channel, and then you regurgitate your education, where your education is exclusively based off of misunderstanding studies and watching YouTube to learn. If you have no foundation at all in medicine or science, and you just read studies and think that that's all it takes is reading studies and you know everything, then you're ready to be a bald priest. Dr. Todd, the most entertaining bodybuilder on YouTube. Thanks, man. No, winning as older guy. Shame for having no wife, kids, happy marriage. Shame for avoiding it and saving for retirement. Staying safe.
No, don't save for retirement, man. Just assume you're going to die of sadness, before you get to retirement.
Yeah. Anadrol versus Superdrol for building muscle.
I like Anadrol more, but I've never tried either one of them.
I mean, I have a video. I have 1 or 2 videos called Anadrol versus Superdrol. And it's just Superdrol is so toxic. It's even more toxic than Anadrol. Let's just ask Nova what she thinks. Hold on. Because she'll probably sum it up faster than I can. I'm lazy at this point. I'm sick of talking about the stuff that I've already done a video about. Nova. Sean Siegel asks, Anadrol versus Superdrol for building muscle. Which is better?
Both Anadrol and Superdrol are potent anabolic steroids, but they have different characteristics. Anadrol is known for rapid muscle and strength gains, but can come with more water retention. Superdrol tends to provide leaner gains with less water retention. Ultimately, the choice depends on individual goals and how one responds to each compound, always keeping safety in mind.
All right. Oh.
Yeah.
I always hate it when people are like, Steve said. So Steve said YK11 was better, was like Superdrol. It's like Superdrol is oral Masteron. YK11 is supposed to be a follistatin analog or myostatin inhibitor. I mean, I don't know how you could possibly compare a chocolate cake to a latte, but that's basically what it sounds like he's doing.
Latte
What do you
express.
think?
I don't like lattes.
Right. Comparing YK11 to Superdrol is like comparing apples and oranges. They work through very different mechanisms. Superdrol is an anabolic steroid, while YK11 is a myostatin inhibitor. Each has unique effects and uses, so it's important to understand the specific goals and risks associated with each.
All right, thanks, Nova. All right, I forgot to turn her off. All right,
All right. Turning off myostatin is like, does that affect heart tissue as well?
Dude,
these your veins and your blood.
Dude, yeah, the bald priests who have no education, that never occur to them their other organs. It's just muscle. That's the only part of your body that exists. All right. The high status dudes who bang the sevens make it to where the sevens think they deserve those. Correct.
Well, they bang them and throw them away, and they're like, "What? He didn't want to keep me."
And then they think men are like this. That their concept of men is so negative because it's 1% of the men are having sex with 99% of the women. And so they think all men are cheaters, all men treat girls like crap. And they think the average man is 5'11. They think the average man makes 400 grand a year. They think the average dude has a 7-inch dick. Like, no, bitches. Like, that is not the case. It's like, it's so ridiculous. The world we live in is so fucked up. I don't mess with orals at all. Only Anavar and Viagra. Yeah. I think he's making fun of me. I don't use Anavar very often. And the Viagra I take pre-workout because I don't consider that an oral steroid. And that's unless it's just a coincidence that, yes, that is my favorite pre-workout combination to go with my Fenris Fury. That Fenris Fury, the best pre-workout ever, extremely low price for how great it is. Also, I take Viagra, and I might take, but haven't been, but might in the future and have in the past, take sublingual Anavar with it. Yes, I use artificial sweeteners. I don't use Ace K because that can be toxic. Oh, The Gorge was good. I thought about watching that last night. I mean, yes, except for I don't believe in orals. I know you like orals, but orals are stupid. If you can't use a proper injection, you're not ready for steroids.
I mean, if you did Superdrol only, you'd probably never take steroids again, I think.
Oh, because it would kill you or something?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it definitely could. I knew one guy who had taken Anadrol 100 for 2 years, blew up his liver, literally.
Okay, so I think, like, let's say let's pretend it's not a fear thing. Let's say there was a real thing. Like, let's say you're living in a post-apocalyptic world and there was no needles, there's no bottles, there's just orals left because they're so much easier to manage. I would probably do like 10 D-ball a day and use probably like 20 Superdrol a day. And that would probably be the way I would approach it. That to me would be your test and Masteron combo. I might throw in some Proviron if I needed some sexual function because there's no DHT available. So a tiny amount of D-ball, a tiny amount of Proviron for DHT. So the D-ball is for the estrogen. The Proviron's for the DHT. And then the Superdrol would be for the anabolic effect.
So why not?
Or you could just
say what? I was going to say, what about an Anadrol D-ball stack? Is that not good? If you only had to do orals?
Because I don't think you get an actual DHT effect out of the Anadrol. Proviron is literally just DHT with a methyl group. And so it acts like DHT. It will have sexual function benefits like DHT will. Whereas none of the other ones really give you improved sexual sensitivity. Any way to prevent testicular atrophy while on cycle, or just hope for the boys? I made Thor's hammer so that you can save your nuts while on cycle. Another way that other people will say is use HCG injections. That is more expensive than this product. I will say it works better, but it's more expensive.
I take zinc 100 milligrams with 400 micrograms selenium and 5 milligrams copper. That works plenty for me.
For maintaining natural testicular function?
The loads are big.
Oh, okay.
That's all I worry about. It's
Okay.
been requested to have large ones, so, you know.
I remember I had this girlfriend, and all my friends that were using Thor's hammer, like, dude, why don't you just drop the testosterone and use the Thor's hammer? That your shit works. It works that good. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll try it. So I dropped testosterone. This was in 2017. I dropped the testosterone, added Thor's hammer, and I threw in a little bit of HCG. And my girlfriend at the time was so excited. She's like, your loads are huge. This is awesome. She just loved it. And then I was like, all right. And then after I stopped using Test, I didn't use Test again until 2021. So for several years, I used just Thor's hammer and nandrolone. And that was all I needed.
Oh, so you had like 0 tests when you got tested on. Well, I guess if you used the right test, you had tests, but
yeah,
you had no tests. But if you used other ones,
yeah, like suspiciously good, like there's real sugar in it. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna look. All my products taste good as fuck. Let's see. There's a natural artificial flavoring, calcium silicate, sucralose. Oh, there is a little ACE in here. All right, but there's a really small amount of ACE. All right, but it's sucralose and ACE. All right, I love Denizen, man. All right, I heard Broderick Chavez say he hated natty bodybuilders, and that resonated with me. I'm thinking to start injections. I don't know that Broderick ever said that. I'll ask him. That doesn't sound like something Broderick would say. Supergirl and Masterwell walked into a bar. Supergirl immediately started throwing around weight while Masterwell just stood there looking lean and confident. I don't know what you're talking about, man. You're just talking out your ass. All right. There's so many women out there. Gyms are full of them. They don't look happy to me. Yeah. So you're right that there's a lot of lonely women out there because their standards are way too fucking high. And they don't understand that they're not as attractive as they think they are. So they're holding out for guys that are way out of their league. That women need to lower their standards, or let me rephrase that. Women have to have realistic standards. They have to have a humble self-perception of themselves and understand that if they're a 7, they're not entitled to a 10. They're entitled to a 7. That they might get an 8, but they're entitled to a 7. And most girls want a guy who's less attractive than them in the face because they want all the attention. So the guys that they want to sleep with are a certain look, but the guys they want to be in public with are a different look. It's just a total fucking mess. They create an idea in their head of what they want as a man, and until they find someone who matches their fictional character they've created, then they're not going to be willing to settle down. And that's just the backwards way of looking at it. You should basically just meet somebody. If you get along with them, see how far it goes. If you sleep with them and the sex is good, it's like, I can tolerate this person and the sex is good, then you should just let her rip for as long as you can tolerate them for. All right. Have you used DNP? Yes, I used DNP in 2008, and it made me sweat like a motherfucker. What about D-ball plus Anavar plus M-Tron for stack and oral only world? I think you're missing the point. What I was saying was, if I had to use orals for HRT, then I would use D-ball plus Proviron so that I can replicate the effects of testosterone. But yes, D-ball plus Anavar makes more sense. I guess methyltren, but again, Denizen, this is extremely unhealthy options when there's injectables. Do you have a link to your Thor's hammer? Just Google Thor's hammer Valhalla Labs, and it'll come right up. There's no way I can give you a link here because that doesn't really work in the real world. You could go to my Instagram and click the link that's on my Instagram bio, and that's going to be my link tree. And there's a link to the supplement company Valhalla Labs on that.
Ooh.
What do you think of combining Tirzip and retatrutide? I don't really understand why you'd combine them, since retatrutide is tirzepatide plus glucagon, unless it's a price thing. What do you think,
I can
Josh?
give you on that one. The combo is basically like they'll get prescribed one and they'll have like a bunch of it left, but then they want to try Retta, so they'll throw some Retta in. Tirzepatide for some people, I mean, they basically all work a little bit different for everybody. Some people want to have more appetite blocking, and they use the retatrutide to get the like 200 calorie burn or so from the glucagon. So they'll do like 7.5 milligrams of TERS and then 2 milligrams of retatrutide. Just try to see which one is doing more for them. I don't recommend it, but I don't know if it works well or not. But all these people seem to be enjoying it.
I just think it's a bunch of drug addicts, and they just like doing drugs. So they're mixing drugs because they don't have any understanding of pharmacology. So they don't understand. And I get the kind of concept, like, I want more of A and B, but less of C. So I'm going to do the A plus B to a certain amount, and I'm going to use the A plus B plus C to a lesser amount. But most of the time, these people just aren't that smart. They're just adding the two drugs together because they think they're different. They don't realize.
Right. I don't see why if you're on Retta or tirzepatide or whatever, you got a food blocking one, now have like a calorie burning one, like let's go with caffeine. Or your ECA stack or your Clen. People like Clen. I don't like Clen. But I've never tried Clen, but just there's different ways to burn fat, but mostly it's wake up and do this fucking exercise on a treadmill or on a bike or whatever you can do. Hell, you like dancing, go dancing.
But that's the bottom line, is you can't burn calories unless you're in a calorie deficit.
Right.
And so none of these people understand these drugs don't do shit except appetite suppression. That's really all it does. And then people will say, well, it cuts down on this and it does this and this. Just shut up. You have to be in calorie deficit. So you're overcomplicating it with a bunch of these science paper bullshit. In the real world, it comes down to you have to be in a calorie deficit. The way these work is you eat less food. There's less food coming in. But that's not the right way to burn fat. The right way to burn fat is to increase your calories out, not decrease your calories in.
I've got some stuff that will kill Denizen quickly if you want to die.
Yeah, DVD says, Denizen, are you trying to fast track your way to an early grave? All right.
Methyl trend plus check drops plus super draw. Just take all three of those.
This is Sean Siegel. Trend Twins trolling at the LA Expo saying he takes Tren, Deca, and Methyltren. That might be true.
You could take Methyltren. That's available.
I've done that before. I've taken Tren, Deca, and Methyltren and dimethyltren at the same time. There was no logic to it. I just wanted to see if I could actually do any damage to my liver.
Yeah, you want to see if you can kill your kidneys and your liver.
Yeah. I just want to see how much damage I could do. Denizen, but for real, you convinced me the test plus master, and I get the logic now. Sweet. I'm glad I did. All right. Black Kaiser, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Always love your kind of. I think you texted me. Hold on. Did you text me while we're on, bro? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, at 11:21. What time is it now? Oh, it's 26 minutes ago. Great, sir. Love all your content and learn so much from you. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. All right. Just wondering if D-ball kickstart makes sense. No, and don't front load test either, because you'll get huge upswing on DHT and estradiol. In fact, I got to do a video about how D-ball kickstarts are stupid, because people just are fucked in the head if they think that's a good idea to send your methyl estrogen sky high. Denizen, I recommend avoiding orals and focus on finding your right test dosage to add mass. Yeah, I mean, I think Denizen's aware that he should just watch my videos and follow the directions if he wants the safest outcome. Daniel Martin, if a man can sleep with a woman, he can get commitment 99% of the time if he wanted it. It's not the other way around. You're 100% accurate. Huh? I don't know if that's true. I don't think 99% of women would commit to a man. There's been a million times where I've said to a girl, will you be my girlfriend? And she laughed and said, I don't like you. I just fuck you. So that's not true, dude. That's not
a good
true
compliment, but also insult. It's like, oh. You're
It
just a
feels
piece of
good.
meat to me. You're like, oh, thanks. I think maybe.
It feels good the first couple times, but after a
Right.
while, it starts to hurt.
When you get
Especially
to
when
number
you
25, you're
really,
like,
especially when you really like the girl and you had no idea she didn't even like you. All right, or maybe D-ball plus only plus EQ and then add test later. What, dude? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Just used. Yeah, I'm not going to entertain this bullshit. Beginning cycle, 200 test, 200 mass D. I mean, you should first receptor map testosterone. And then once you know the exact amount of testosterone and GH to get the results you want, then you might start introducing Masteron because you've already maxed out your testosterone and you can't handle the DHT or estrogen side effects. Yeah, I've got plenty of videos about this.
yeah,
It's pretty basic concept.
Really good, yeah, as a starter, depending on how old you are, really. But this guy looks like
if you looked at any of the content on the YouTube channel, then you will find the answer you're looking for. Anything that has testosterone in the title, it's so simple. You use testosterone and GH until you get to a maximum IGF-1, assuming you haven't went overboard with your estrogen and DHT due to symptoms. And then you use Masteron to fill in the anabolic gap if necessary. D-ball kickstarts are the forum style back in the early 2000s. Yeah, it's just dumb shit people spreading their dumb shit rumors on some dumb shit forum. John Cruikshank, any benefits to Clomid while staying on test? No. That Clomid's inferior to Thor's hammer. But I understand the logic of what you're saying is you want to stimulate LH production because the LH production will stimulate the testes. But if you're going to take a drug for that purpose, you might as well cut out the middleman and just take HCG. I would most definitely look for you on my next contest prep. All right, cool. You said that full boldenone stack was an option that could work in one of your videos. I don't think I did. I think I said nandrolone only. I don't think I ever said boldenone because boldenone doesn't have a DHT component or an estrogen component. Thoughts on DHB? Just check out the video on DHB and boldenone.
Everyone says those injections hurt for DHB.
Yeah. Hey Todd, curious. Are you streaming using a laptop or a desktop? If laptop, do you use an additional monitor? No, I'm using a laptop. I don't have an additional monitor. What does the additional monitor do? Is Metatrope GH good? Yes, it's the best GH. Hey, hell yes, it is. Wait. Thoughts on DHB? And then you said it was painful, and he said, hell yes, it is. All right, got it. NRG Lives. Great show, guys. I'll catch up on us tomorrow. Have a good night. All right. Is it late? It's been 2 hours so far. The D-ball is the estrogen component of the boldenone. Stack D-ball plus EQ. That just doesn't sound like me. I don't know. I'd have to hear me quoted back for me to believe that's really what I said. Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to do thought experiments where you try to fiddle fuck your way into having something that on paper works. That's not how medicine works. There's two good drugs, test and Masteron, and everything else is inferior. There's never a reason to use anything else unless you react poorly to test or Masteron. Since you don't know that you're going to react poorly to test and Masteron yet, and almost no one does, there's no reason to use any drugs other than test and Masteron if health is of any interest to you whatsoever. I recommend connecting an additional monitor for bigger display. Will make it easier to read the Che questions. Okay, that makes sense.
I use a 40-inch TV.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, my IT guy, I got an IT guy finally. I ended up getting a team of 4 people. One's a videographer, editor, IT guy. One is going to be a web designer. One's an SEO expert, and one is a social media manager. So I have that team will be available this week. In fact, Ryan Root's flying in to interview Dr. Mike Israetel. So I'm going to do like a Nile Naga style interview with Root with actual lighting and a set and like cameras and shit and make it professional.
I love Ryan. I keep trying to convince him to buy colors. He's got the whitest house.
I honestly was thinking this is like Magic the Gathering, where different decks and combos can synergize as special results. No, it is absolutely not like that. I understand what you're saying. That is completely false. That's not how Medicine is. Medicine is not a game. It is not developed by game developers for balance. Whereas in real life, there'd be one color and it would be vastly superior to all the other colors. And if you played head to head, like I play black deck, you play any other deck, I fucking murder you and I kill you so bad, all your ancestors die too. That's what real life is like. That's what Medicine's like. That it is not about game balance. It is completely not about balance. It is about one thing is better and it is completely unfair in every way. That real life and Medicine is like the dating world. That there's some dudes who fuck hundreds of girls because that's what girls want. And there's some dudes who never have sex at all. We are not all equal. That's bullshit. There are some people that are just better than other people and they're better at everything and life is easy for them. And there's some people that just suck and they suck at everything and life's miserable for them. And you're choosing to have a shit life if you choose D-ball, whereas you could have a perfect life if you just do test, mast, and GH. Now, there are some exceptions to this. Like, for instance, Chris Helmsworth could fuck a lot of girls, but maybe there's a girl out there that only wants to fuck black dudes. Then that would be the wrong day to be Chris Helmsworth. Then it'd be better to be The Rock or someone else like Idris Elba or some shit. But that doesn't mean every black dude is more desirable to her than Chris Helmsworth. She might make an exception for Chris Helmsworth. So this is the thing, is that real life is nothing like Magic the Gathering. Nothing. All right. Like, no, I understood what you meant. I used to have a white, red, black deck. It fucking sucked. But I could kill anybody with my red deck because I could just lay down. It was all mana, fireballs, lightnings, and forks. And they couldn't control my creatures because I didn't have any fucking creatures. They couldn't do any type of bullshit. There was no graveyard. I was just laying down fucking lightning and fire and brimstone on them, killing them over and over and over again. I could kill anybody, but I had to kill them in 8 rounds. By 8 rounds, I basically had shot my load at that point. You got to use all lightning bolts right out the gate. And that was how it was in 1994, the last time I played that game. Someone stole my deck. I didn't feel like making a new one. It's been 30 years. I still haven't made a new deck. Point being that real life is not like Magic the Gathering. It is, you use what works. That in video games, there's the machete, there's the baseball bat, there's the chainsaw, and they all have their advantages when killing zombies. That is not true with real life. In real life, soldiers use an M4 for a reason or an AK-47. And the reason why the AK-47 is better is even though on paper, the AK-47 is not as good as anyone else's guns, you can get it dirty. You can get it wet. It'll still kill people. You could have it covered in sand. It could be your grandfather's AK-47. It'll still outperform most guns. So that factor that does not show up on paper is the number one reason why the AK-47 is the number one gun in the world. That real life is not like a fucking game. You don't just play with steroids like you play with creatures in Magic the Gathering. Josh, I also use a TV as well. The LG C2. Oh, man. All right. I've had enough of Denison's questions. What are the great answers? Thank you. Okay. I'm glad he liked that one. All right. Is taking any other oil than testosterone sub-Q a waste? You shouldn't take anything sub-Q, in my opinion, because all it does is cause skin infections unless you have enough body fat to handle that much oil under the skin. It still will absorb slower than if you do it intramuscular. I know you've heard this, you've heard that. I don't care. They're confabulating intramuscular with infrequents. And that's been covered extensively in this channel. Can you think of any advantage, Josh, of subcutaneous testosterone versus intramuscular testosterone?
No.
No, me neither.
I'm sure there's one that, that's a good question for Ryan Root, because I'm sure he's seen different people take different stuff with his, program and as well. But
Right.
I think once you get the daily shots, you're pretty well golden. You should be balanced. I mean, granted, some people not, but
I don't think that it's something that someone should break their neck to accomplish. I still think you should be using an insulin syringe every day. You should be attempting to get in the muscle. And if you don't get in the muscle, you get it sub-Q, that's okay too. The important thing is it's an insulin syringe every day, not where the injection is going. People over focus on that, the IM versus sub-Q, because they confabulate IM with hypodermic syringe and sub-Q with an insulin syringe. It's the syringe and the frequency that matters, not so much the tissue type. But most of the time, the IM with an insulin syringe every day will always beat everything else. Although a lot of people prefer the slow release of the GH sub-Q. All right. Well, I think that's good. We've been on for 2 hours. I will catch you later, guys. Thanks for joining me, Josh.
no problem. Y'all have a great day.
You too.